I start thinking that I'm never going to stop tripping and go to get John. I walked into his room and woke him up. I go sit down and explain to him how messed up I am. I asked him if he'd come and talk with me in my room. We both sit there and just talk about stuff. I told him that I don't even know what I mean, and that I forget it as soon as I say it. It was crazy. Let me tell you about my first heavy trip on shrooms. It will probably be long, as this trip is one that I learned the most from and one that I remember vividly. It starts out with me and a friend just sitting around being bored. I had just grown some mushrooms for the first time and had good results. Anyway, it was around 9 p.m. and we were just chilling in my room and talking. I was really bored and thought about the mushrooms. I decided I was going to try a few. I was in a good relaxed mood and figured it would be a nice little learning experience. I asked my friend if he wanted any and he said he did, but he wasn't going to take any because of his girlfriend. Anyway, I asked him if he'd stay in here with me if I tripped just to watch over me and keep me company. Of course, having nothing else to do, he agreed that he'd stay in here with me. Well, I go over to my ready-to-harvest shrooms and pick me 4 large ones. I didn't have any scales at the time, but we tried to judge them using nickels, 5 grams each, and they weighed somewhere around 20 grams, or 4 nickels. I figured that'd be enough for a nice and heavy trip. I gobbled those up, sat down on my computer and turned on some music. Time passed, about 30 minutes, and I didn't think I was feeling anything, so I decided to eat more. I had already harvested all the shrooms and they were in a desiccant chamber, so I bring my chamber over to the computer with me. My friend has been sitting in one of the recliners in my room and listening to his own music on the laptop. Anyway, I told him I was going to eat more, and he replied, "Whatever you want to do, man." So I started eating away. I ingest 4 more. About 15 minutes pass, and I'm starting to feel a good buzz, probably from the first shrooms I ate. I started talking to my friend about everything, past girlfriends, fun times we'd had together, and much more. Me and my friend, we'll call him John, are mainly idiots. We hung out a lot and did stupid things that were funny. So we started talking stupidly, just trying to make each other laugh, and everything seemed funny as hell to me. I'd laugh at stuff before he'd even finish saying it. I'm starting to get a good buzz, and the walls and just about everything else are beginning to have a roundish feel to them. I start calming down, like being stoned, and we start talking seriously. I felt so good. I was relaxed and my mind felt so clear. It was just great. I get on the computer and go search for some music to download while still talking to John. I'm feeling good and decided I'm going to go chill in my other recliner and listen to my music. My room is a great place to chill when I'm tripping. I have 2 4-foot black lights, a lava lamp, glow-in-the-dark stars, strobe lights and a laser ball. Anyway, I go sit down and I'm watching my door. It has rectangular designs, 2 long rectangles on each side, then a single square at the top of each side. It only looked like 1 long rectangle on each side, and it began getting smaller, then larger, and pretty much repeated that little pattern for a while. I glance around and notice that my walls are starting to bend in and out. I'm pretty much in a stoned mode now, and just watching everything move. I get up and go to the computer for some reason. I turn around and start talking to John about how I feel, and he just makes comments about how it must be great. I'm like, it is great, and I decided I wanted to experience the fullest effects of shrooms. So I return to my harvested fungis and grab half a dozen good-sized ones and a few small ones. I go and sit down by my computer chair and begin talking about everything again, pretty much prophesizing about everything that came to mind. I start eating my handful of shrooms and talking about my thoughts. My friend decided he was going to look for optical illusions on the computer, and he found a lot of sites full of freaky stuff. I've already eaten a few of the shrooms in my hand by the time he found the first good site. He had been glancing at me as I was eating them like he was a little concerned. We looked at the first illusion. It was a picture of a beautiful woman with her head turned, and we didn't know what the illusion was at first. Then I noticed it was also an image of an old woman facing sideways. This just blew my mind at the time and kind of freaked me out. I was thinking about how that picture applies to life and how there are so many things that are right in front of us that nobody notices unless they're really looking for it. It kind of freaked me out at how quickly all that came to mind. I laughed about how serious that image was to me and how he didn't think anything of it. I toss another shroom in my mouth and John looks at me and laughs. He makes the comment that I'm eating them like they're a snack. I ate all the shrooms I had during the time we were looking at optical illusions. So many of those illusions messed with me. They started looking like they were scrolling down the screen when they weren't. It took me a while to notice that John wasn't moving them. Then, my trip was kicking in good. I started seeing symbols and acid burns on the images. The first one was a face. So many thoughts are going through my head at the same time. I looked at the clock, and it was only 11 o'clock. It felt like it was around 1 or 2 a.m. at least. I stand up to go to my recliner. As I'm walking over there, I look at the floor. The carpet seemed to rise up towards me, and hundreds of little canyons appeared in the carpet. I looked at them, and then I just fell out of my body. It felt like I slid from my head all the way down myself and into the canyons. That was the first really freaky thing that happened. It felt like I just had a very realistic dream within a matter of seconds. When I came back from whatever the hell that was, I was lying in my recliner with a quilt over me. I have no idea how I got there. That little dream I had of falling into the canyon seemed like it was a long dream. Now, I'm back to looking at my door and my walls. Everything is bending and sort of melting. Then my quilt, which was glowing from the blacklight, seemed to have a dark flame that came up from it. This flame was burning at the bottom of everything I could see. Then, my door, shelves, stars, and just everything I could see seemed to melt and run down into my television. I'm amazed by this. I lean up on the edge of my recliner and look over at my friend. He looks at me and kind of grins. I'm just left speechless from all the thoughts flowing through my head. I glance over at the clock and it's only 11:05. That confused me. I just ignore it because of how freaky it was, and I just stare at everything. Stuff was moving around and having traces and everything. It was the craziest thing I'd ever seen. I can't remember what happened after that, but I have another dream. This dream was of how the mushrooms I ate were now a part of me, and I was a part of them. It was like they were trying to teach me something. It seemed like the shrooms were an extension of some spirit. I don't know what it was, but it had a lot of feeling to it. I can't explain what the dream was about, but it seemed to have more meaning than anything else did that night. I come back to consciousness, I guess you could say, and it's now midnight. Everything is moving so much by now, but I'm so used to it at this point that I don't think anything of it. It felt like I was on a tour through this new world I had entered. I was thinking about how the mushrooms must still be trying to teach me something. I went for a little walk around my room and my house. I had a thought about how mushrooms could just be allowing us to break through the barriers of the physical world. I thought they were breaking through these barriers so effectively, and that was the reason for all the visuals. It was like everything in the whole world just amounted to one thing as a whole. This kind of messed with my head again. I walk back to my room feeling all happy and stuff. I get in and just stare at everything from my door with my mouth wide open, as I'd been doing just about every time I saw something interesting. I walk over to my bed and it looks like it's made of water or some liquid. I guess it was from the blue sheets and the black light. I ran my finger across it and it seemed to ripple just like water, of course. It was just the sheets rippling, but it still amazed me. It made my bed look so comfortable, so I just collapsed onto it. I'm laying there now, and I felt like I was at the bottom of a river. I just let my mind go about breaking down every idea that came to mind. I lay there just thinking about how relaxing water is. I come back from my little daze and look at the clock. Now it's 12:30. I look around and wonder where the hell John went. I forgot all about him. I walked to his room and sure enough, there he was. It felt like I hadn't seen him in forever. I just stare at him like I'm retarded or something and he kind of laughs at me. I tell him that I have to show him this stuff. I wanted to take him on the same tour that I've been on. I began to lead him to my room and I glanced in the bathroom and saw a poster of Homer Simpson that we had in there. I noticed how thick of a pen they used to draw him. The poster looked about the size of a postcard from where I was, and I noticed how out of proportion the couch was. I tried to tell John about my new findings and walked to the poster to show him how it's out of proportion. I still think it's only the size of a postcard, and tried to use my fingers to show him the measurements. Then I noticed that my fingers were too small to do that. This amazed me again. I wanted to laugh, but I was too messed up and I just exhaled a little bit of air. I lead him back to my room talking about God only knows what. I try and explain my visuals, and I show him my waterbed. He just tags along and looks at everything. I thought about how nice it was of him not to think I was retarded. After a while, I decided I was going to go to bed, so John left and went to do the same thing. I lay in my bed and just think about stuff to try and put myself to sleep. Doesn't seem to work too well. so I open my eyes back up and think about how hard I'm tripping. I just watched the black stuff dissolve into the white stuff in my room and then reappear as I'd been doing. I watched my lava lamp. It had these little black balls inside of the lava. My dartboard was sliding around my wall. I was still amazed at this stuff. I look at the clock and it's 2 a.m. now. It only felt like it had been 15 minutes since I'd gotten John to come to my room. That is when I noticed what the mushrooms were trying to teach me. They were showing me what time was. I tried to judge time and I just couldn't do it. How long is 5 minutes? I'd asked myself. I didn't know. It confused me. I started thinking about time and came to the conclusion that time is life. It was confusing me, but it made perfect sense at the same time. Without time, there wouldn't be anything. I can't explain it unless I'm on shrooms, and to understand it you'd have to be on shrooms too, more than likely. It was crazy. I start thinking that I'm never going to stop tripping and go to get John. I walked into his room and woke him up. He laughed, because when he woke up, I was just standing in the middle of his room looking at a wall. I go sit down and explain to him how messed up I am. He was talking about how he was messed up really bad the first time he tripped on acid really hard, and how he tried getting a hold of me too then. He said that he had the same feeling about never being normal again. I asked him if he'd come and talk with me in my room. We both sit there and just talk about stuff. I told him that I don't even know what I mean, and that I forget it as soon as I say it. It was crazy. I asked him if I was going to be normal tomorrow, or if I was going to still be tripping. He said it should be worn off by morning. It was 3 a.m. now, and time seemed to have just kicked it into overdrive or something all of a sudden. I lay there and tried, and go to sleep just thinking about how John was there to assure me that nothing bad happened to me. I finally fall asleep and wake up the next morning amazed at how much of a learning experience mushrooms are.